Yay.
Yay.
Satnam, everybody.
Welcome.
Does anybody else have that situation where you are logging in and then somebody talks to you in Spanish?
Yes.
I have had that happen to me, yes.
Yeah. Well, I guess I should be a little more steady. It kind of threw me off. How is everybody today?
Great.
Good.
Good. Who's here?
Siri Gian?
Yes.
What I found when I was doing that, if you're not fast enough with putting in the code or pressing 1, then it goes to the Spanish.
Oh, thank you very much.
Like if you're fast enough, it won't do that.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that, Guru Ravi.
Okay.
So who else is here?
Hargoben.
Hi, Hargoben. How are you?
Hargoben.
I'm doing great. Hey, Guru.
And who else is here?
Suzanne.
Hi, Suzanne. Guru Atma. Welcome. And who else?
Ranjit.
Ranjit. Rahmani and Kamas?
Yes.
Yes. Good. And who else?
Sadna.
Sadna. Welcome,
Yes.
dear.
Hi.
Did I hear Kehar earlier? Yes, well, I thought I did. And who else is here?
Harimander.
Hi, Harimander.
Hey.
And who else is here?
Haridas.
Carol is here.
Haridas?
Yes.
Oh, welcome. And who else?
Carol.
Carol. Hi, Carol. Welcome.
Good morning.
And good morning. And who else?
Sadakal.
Oh, hi, Sadakal. Glad to have you.
Hi.
Welcome. And who else is here? Okay, so that must mean it's time to start. So, God bless you, everybody. Please sit straight. Long, deep breath. Long, deep breath. And now, eyes at the third eye point. And inhale to begin, to tune in. Inhale. Long deep breath. And now please begin heart breath. That is long deep breath, but on the exhale, feel as though the air is moving out of the heart center. feel your heart open. Yeah, yum. Your own divine heart. Good. And now please send this beautiful heart breath to everybody who is here on our call, as well as everybody else who will be listening to this call. Good. And now Babaji says, please send your beautiful heart breath to all those on this precious earth who are going through this change in ages. That includes you. It includes everybody. And inhale and exhale. Good. So welcome everybody. I'm in Flagstaff, Arizona today, and it looks like just now spring is coming here. It's so odd after having been in that beautiful, gorgeous land of green and beautiful flowers in Los Angeles. Okay, so Babaji, what do you have to say? He says, I have to say everything. He says, but first I want you to stop and reflect. Stop and reflect. How has your own life been going? He says, are you content? Are you happy? Are you overloaded? He says, do you have crimes to figure out? He says, he says, he calls it dancing in front of your eyes, but it's more like bouncing. Are people bouncing all around you? He says, where is the hurt and the shame? He says, is the hurt and the shame right in your face? Whether it be yours or someone else's? He says, have you forgotten to love in some cases? He says, in other cases, have you found, he calls it, do you have a barrel full of ashes or a belly full of ashes? And I'm saying, sir, what do you mean? He says, are you finding that old dead stuff is coming up out of nowhere? Are you finding that you are not just with yourself, or that you are blaming yourself, or that unkindness is seeping into your role as who you are as a loving person on this earth? He said, oh, my dears, he says, this is the time. He says, you have been warned by your beautiful Siri Gian that things would be changing now. He says, and oh, they are. He says, we're coming to a time where there is nothing that is overlooked, nothing is left out, and that we are all finding that we are one. For good or for difficulties, he says. He says that's what's happening now. He says the lines are loosening. The lines are coming. The lines, these fictional, he calls it, these fictional lines of separation. He says you are no longer being cattle put each one in their own little bin, in their own little crib. He says those walls are coming down. He says when Yogi Bhajan said the other person is you, he says, oh my God, yes they are. He says what that means is that we all are suffering each other's, he says we're all suffering each other's quantum leaps. Now what that means is that that any of our own unsolved stuff is going out into the ethers, is going out and is meshing with other people's, calls it other people's duty, and also our greatness, our kindness, our open heart is also moving out. He says it is all mixing together. Also, we are receiving we are becoming so sensitive in receiving other people's unkindness, injustice, upset, as well as their kindness and loving. He says, my dears, these are the times to visit Mother Nature. He says, you may think that it is a kind and anachronistic word. He says, but in fact, he says, you better hang on tight to her. You had better sink your roots deep into Mother. Deep into Mother. He says, please do that now. Use your long, deep breathing. And sink your energy deep into Mother. Let her give you her stability. He says she has he calls it the equipment or the mass. Or she holds that place of change in a way that you don't get bounced all over the place. He says, use your beautiful heart breath, your long, deep breathing, and move your energy right down into the center of the mass of Mother Earth. He says, that's because she's the mother of you all. This is the mama that you need to be reborn, whose hand you need to hold, whose kindness you must depend upon. He says he is very grateful for your own healing of your own difficulty. He's very, very grateful to it. He says, but as you become more and more aware of this web that you live in, you are going to find yourself jumping around like a crazy person. He says, and the only rhythm, the only healing source, he says, is to sink your roots into Mother, to hold your heart alert, awake, doing your heart breath, and moving it, and to stay so tuned and locked in at your third eye and 10th gate to the Master of all, which is your soul. He says, and of course, call on us beings to hold you steady. He said, especially Guru Ramdas, Yogi Bhajan, me, all of your angels and saints, and any beautiful saints that you relate to, such as Jesus and Mary. He says, you must feel yourself so tied in, so rich, so buried in our love that you are, well, he says, so that you are insulated with his beautiful flow, this beautiful flow of steadiness, openness, this healing breath, this healing kindness. He says, yes, I know you all thought that each one was going to go through this individually. He says, but my dears, each one will need to do their own special and most kind and most deep work. He says, but the time is here when you must know yourself as one, where you must understand that you live not only for yourself, not only for your close loved ones, but you live for all the inhabitants of the planet. He says, as you may have observed, many souls are leaving the planet right now, both animal and human. He says, and are getting ready for the rich launch pad that is coming up. He says the work is complete and they need to be in the next place. That's in quotes, in the next place, in order to hold the lines firm. Now, when he says lines, he's talking about what we might call ley lines, which are lines of energy like meridians across the earth. And he says the human nature, well, all of nature intersects with these bylines. He says that is who you are as a planetary healer. He says, you're here, my dears, and you cannot escape. He says, don't worry, you have elected to be here. You have elected. You have elected to put your 2 feet forward, to open your heart, to stay steady as the network with one another, to include all of humanity, all of the kingdoms of earth, in other words, animal, vegetable, and mineral, to hold all as we move into this next, he calls it the next syncopated rhythm. Sir, why do you call it syncopated? He says, because to you it may feel that it's off kilter, that you don't know where things are flying from to reach you, that you may have had a workaday rhythm, you may have had a schedule to your life, and now you find that it is going ballistic, he calls it. He says, and you can't really chart out what is happening in your mind because you can't. He says, when you chart things out, normally it produces, how can I say, a habit of something that you can recognize. He says, just because you can't recognize a rhythm doesn't mean that there is a whole larger rhythm, and in fact is a collection of various rhythms. He says, if you have ever seen charts of biorhythms, and you see that they are, each one has their own rhythm, but each one, the ebbs and flows are unique to each part, you know, whether it's your physical, mental, emotional, and so on. Each one is unique, but they intersect. They intersect in different ways. He says that is becoming much more pronounced, not only for each individual, but for the whole planet. He says, and by the way, he says this change, this syncopation, is happening not only for this planet, he said, but all of your physical universe. He says, in other words, those who study the stars, who study the creation and degradation of the universal flow, for instance, with the Hubble telescope, you may find that these people are reporting that there are strange anomalies happening these days. He says, don't worry about it. He says, it is simply a new time, but it is calling you. It is calling you to be rooted in Mother, to expand your heart, to open your 10th gate, to flow. And he says, you know how you do that? He says, first, you start off every day with a very secure sadhana. He says, without that secure sadhana, he says, you begin to crumble. He says, you put yourself as very vulnerable. He says, too vulnerable. He says, it will feel as though you are falling off the edge if you're not careful. Because you, even though you generally are in great shape, generally you do your prayers, generally you tune in, he says, without that concentration of sadhana, he says you cannot pull it all together. That he says, and in your sadhana, be very sure that you are very present with all of these energies. Understand that he says that kundalini, that energy up and down your spine, uniting your 10th gate, and all of the precious awareness in what you call above and beyond. He says uniting down into Mother Earth. He says your time-space reality, your coziness, and expanding from your heart, expanding on the horizontal with all of nature, with all of humanity, with opening everywhere. He says without that, you're going to feel like you were being bounced around in what you had hoped was your bubble. He says, sweethearts, he says, no bubbles will be existing. He says there is only one beautiful blue planet, and that is you. He says this is your bubble, this planet. He says, yes, you were connected into the consciousness of other beings, other consciousnesses in other realms, also in time-space. He says, but, he says, consider this like astronaut training. This is like astronaut training. This is the new age. He says you are moving into it, and he says, you know, when an astronaut takes off, he says the astronaut is under about 6G force. He says the rattling is so intense that it feels like his teeth are falling out. His brain is coming apart. He says that is the expectation, and that is the heart of what will be happening. He says we are at the beginning, but he's calling it the tail. Why are you calling it the tail? He says, because things will be reversed. He says you're beginning, so to speak, at the tail of the dog and moving up along the kundalini. Okay? So it is so important at this time that you be rooted, and be in connection with your higher sources. But now is the time for you to be rooted. And he says, when your world gets shaken, when these appliances get shaken. So what do you mean by appliances? Appliances mean the things that we have formerly been rooted into and have taken for granted. In other words, a fairly orderly and secure social system that includes a fairly secure financial and exchange system. It includes a fairly orderly education system, fairly orderly job security, weather patterns, depending on people by your knowledge of them, by their reputation, and that means you have known them for years and they act a certain way, and suddenly suddenly or gradually you find that they are all over the place, or that they have fears that were unknown to you previously, or that they have such outrageous kindness, or that they have such amazing grace that you had never seen before. He says, expect the unexpected. Expect the unexpected. Stay rooted. Things will not happen. They will not occur as you have always thought. He said this is not just an exterior event. It is not just an event of habits becoming disrupted. He said it is a whole new shake, a whole new learning experience, a whole new awareness of how the world operates, because indeed the world, as you know it, will be operating differently. It means that there will be no habit. He says, as we move into this, there will not be the experience of habit. there will not be the experience of routine that you can depend upon, that you can relax in. He says, so, you know, my sweet one, the only thing that you can rely on is your own presence. Your own presence in every subtle and superlative note. That means being entirely rooted in Mother, also known as Adi Shakti, Pritambhagati, and so on, Kundalini Mata Shakti. He says, it is not going to hurt at all. If you do that mantra, make that mantra yours. He said, stay rooted with Mother and understand this incredible, all-powerful, all-aware coziness that emanates on the grandest scale. Be very aware of that. Jump into her heart. Know who she is. Be one with her presence. Also be absolutely aware as you move from the tail up through the heart center. Keep that heart center moving. Keep it burning. Keep it open. Keep it so that it becomes the equilibrium. Let your heart, your shining heart, your heart breath become the equilibrium that keeps you upright, keeps you buoyant, and connects you to others' heart. He says, we've talked about this many times before, with the understanding that this modality is what creates the net, or the web of light. And this is why we call you light workers. This is who you are in creating this web of light. He says, and moving to the experience of the unknown. The experience of the unknown. Remember, Yogi Bhajan always said, the unknown is known to me. In other words, you are not frightened by the unknown. You are not put off by the unknown. He says it's rather like when you read a book. You don't know what word is coming next. When you watch TV, you don't know what action is coming next. He says when you work in a garden, he says you may have an expectation of what is happening next. He says, but in fact, it is always the truth of the unexpected. He calls it the truth of the unexpected. He says, my dear ones, please settle in this. Please settle into this experience. And as it happens, he says, you go, oh, I know what's happening. I can dance with this. I can be with this. He says, do you have the experience of turning on your loud and wonderful music? Maybe sometimes subtle. He says, and you feel it flow through your body. He says, now, my dears, when you feel it flowing through your body, you dance with it. You tune in tail, head, heart. And you dance with that rhythm, you dance with that flow. He says, no matter how syncopated it may be, you know the unknown. You dance in your sadhana with the unknown. Please be sure you understand that. He says, yes, please do continue to heal. Please continue to know. He says, but dance with the unknown. Everything that comes up, greet it as the unknown so that you may dance in truth and in light. And he calls it in the syncopated vortex of the now. The syncopated vortex of the now. He says, this is the joy that you've come in for. He says, to your dying breath and beyond. Dance in the syncopated now. He says, you are such a pleasure to work with because you do take it seriously. You do take it with a light heart. You do allow it to be you. He says, and don't forget to come and ask me, to come and hold my hand, to hold the hand of Yogi Bhajan, Guru Ramdas, your soul, Mother Adishakti. He says, you are such blessed beings, such kind beings, such truthful, well-rooted, both head and feet and heart. He says, please move with it. Please float with it. He says, you know who you are. Please rely on that, even though it doesn't always occur to your conscious mind. Rely on the fact that you know who you are. Move with it, float with it, connect. Connect. Each of you are a point on the ley lines. He calls it the ley lines of adversity. Sir, what do you mean by that? He says, you know meridian points. He says, each one of you, as you steady your contact with heaven and earth and connect on the horizontal from your light, from your heart, he says you create the steadiness, the steady points within this web and with this net, so that all who are ready, all who want to hang on can hang on and eventually also become steady. Steady points of light, steady meridian points. In this light, in this play of what appears to be darkness. So he says, now stay with this, love it, and be who you are. Breathe, please. Okay. Now, as is his custom, he says, can any of you, he says, do any of you recognize this in your own current life? Do any of you interact with this? What are your experiences with this? He says, and has this advice helped you and affected you in any way? He says, no. Who can share?
Siri Gian?
Yes, dear. Guru Ravi.
Yes. Wow, it's helped and affected in every way.
Oh, good. Can you explain?
It's all encompassing. It feels the words are so hard.
Mm-hmm.
It feels as we go through these talks, like the bigger picture of everything. We hear things as always in life, but in different ways as we progress through this Aquarian dimension.
Mm-hmm.
That each guidance through Baba Siri Chand, through the council, is bringing us further and further into this deep connection with heaven and earth, and the experience of the ley lines and seeing that so descriptive is creating that steadiness, and then allowing the holding on to that to keep us grounded and keep us moving into this dimension with light and with favor.
Good. He says, do you have any personal experiences? Yeah.
Oh, yes, lots and lots. I mean, it was like watching a play. It was like sitting in front of a screen and watching all of this stuff, like everything that was spoken to. Yes, I had a personal experience almost with every word that was spoken today.
Oh, good. He said, would you
Yeah.
like to pick out one and let us know?
I guess the biggest one for me, it always seems to be centered around clients and students, and and I guess because that's the most contact that I have with others, and and I just see the confusion so strongly, and I'm feeling so much different when I do a consultation now, and now hearing this, I was feeling like that's what it is. The expectation that when you work with someone, you do have certain expectations, and if you do their birth chart, then you feel like you know that person pretty well, and then feeling the surprise, and I just like the rug being pulled out from under you, with either behavior or words that are spoken, and I think that understanding, I don't know understanding, but just I don't know if I have that understanding yet, but hearing the words that how we're being affected by this, and that it's still moving forward, because sometimes it feels like it's moving backwards.
He says you're just going to deeper levels, and he says, excuse me, he says when those magnetic ley lines, he says when the magnetism of them changes, when it's not so constant, he says when those change, it feels like you're in a mixing bowl. He says, and also he says what has been traditional astrology, he says it's not that it's gone awry, but he says because of the magnetism of the planets and the mix of them, he says we are all being, he uses this word, contacted and amalgamated in ways that have been different, not entirely different, but their texture is changing at this time. So you may begin to find a little bit of a pattern, and then it may shift because things are changing so hugely, abruptly in so many ways. He says, remember I said that people who study the universe or the planetary systems, for instance, through the Hubble telescope, will find that things are changing. So, of course, it has its own sort of disruption, not with the main planetary flow, but with all of what he calls like the texture or the decoration or the subtleties of those planetary flows. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Okay. Good. Thank you so much for sharing, dear.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now, who else can share?
Ranjit, I could share.
Yes, dear.
Hi. Mine kind of goes back to last week when you wrote your article on the Grumpies. And that point, and for it was very good. And for that point, and for days after, I was in such a state of neutrality, and I don't know if I've ever felt like that in my life. It was so wonderful. And then, bam, I fell out of that. And
you fell out of bed?
I know I fell out of that. I fell out of the neutral place, the neutral mind.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And today when Baba Siri Chand was talking about the ash inside of us, and I was really relating to that, and I thought that's kind of what happened. There's so many things that have happened lately to people around me that has brought me back into a lot of things that have happened in my past. But although I wasn't in a neutral mind, I was not in the space where perhaps I would have reacted the way I did in the past before we've come together, with the heart breath and with everything. So it felt different to me. I realized that there had been a huge shift in me, and that even though all that ash was coming up, when it was talked about that that both the heart breath and all the goodness along with the ash and all the junk was all being mixed together, and the other person is myself, and you can hear those words and understand them in your mind, but to actually experience them, and that's what I'm experiencing now. And also the explanation of the other people, that are so many people that are leaving, and animals, that they're going to hold that, the ley lines, that they're holding that on the ethereal sense, on the balance sense, so that we can hold it here and they can hold it there. It made a lot of sense, and it helped me understand situations on a different level. And I just think it was, to me, for today, it was a very big lesson. I experienced a big shift, a real aha, and not only in my mind, but my entire being experienced it. So thank you. And
I am so happy. Yes.
Yes.
Baba Siri Chand is doing his dance. His cute little happy dance.
Why, Guru?
Thank you so much, dear.
Thank you.
Thank you. And this is just an aside. I hope that sometime somebody will write a little kids' song and dance called Do the Grumpy Dump. I think that would be so fun to do. Do the Grumpy Dump. Thank you. And so who else can share?
I think I can. Can you hear me?
Yes. Is this Suzanne?
Okay. Yeah, it is. Hi.
Oh, good.
I realized that I've told you about my car accident. Well, for me, what it was what threw me into another way of thinking, another way of being.
Are you talking about the original one with the big truck?
Yes, the original one. But then again, even the second one had ended up being, now I get it. I'm like, okay, I got it. But what I learned from it is it gives me another perspective. And the more I learn from these things, the more I can share that, so that when people go through terrible, horrible, no good things, they can see another side of it. If they don't get there themselves, then it'll be people like us that'll help them get through it, I guess, just get through something or see another way. Because not everyone has taken this time, like on Wednesday, to open their minds or their hearts to this idea. So they might be shocked by believing that just even opening your heart can really make you feel better. It would be like, oh, for real, oh, really. And if there's enough of us out there that are just saying, yeah, that's what you can do. You can feel better if you just open your heart. So I see it with my family because they're very trusting of me. Surely it's been such a divergent path for me, and yet I see that they just trust me. They listen.
And why do they trust you?
Well,
Suzanne?
I'm here, but I don't exactly know why, but they do.
Just tune in a little bit.
I find it.
Just tune in a little bit and find out, why do they trust you?
They believe me, but I don't think they know why.
There
I think
you go.
Yeah, and that might not. I also wouldn't push it on them because it's new for me. It's also for me, and yet the more I hear from all walks of life, there's the same talk out there in many other walks of life. There's a very similar. It's not just happening on Wednesdays here. It's happening in many places.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, good enough. I find it happening in many places in my environment in many ways. That it just supports what I'm hearing. it makes me trust my own self.
That is extraordinary right there. It makes you trust your own self. That is all important. When you trust your own self, when you are tuned in, there's a certain vibration that goes through you, and other people can see it and hear it. And I'm sure you can experience that in others who also see, hear, feel, and depend on that. Depend on their knowing the unknown. Right?
Yes, right. And so when we don't know this unknown, that's, the change is going to happen. And it's probably a change in all of our behaviors. It's probably a shift in our thinking. And maybe it's happened before on this earth time and we don't know it. But it's a shift. And if we welcome it, if some of us can welcome it, then maybe it will be a calming force for those that have no idea what's going on. And
but not having the idea is not the problem. I mean, it's not a problem. Right.
Oh, like
Suzanne?
Believing it is what? Yeah, I'm here. Are you saying more so that it is about believing it? Is that where you're going with that?
Yeah, it's just being in it. You don't have to know what the unknown is. You just move with it.
Yes, and I think that's why I was given the trials that I've had to go through.
Isn't that amazing to come to a point where you get it and then you can be grateful for the crap that you've been through?
Yeah, it is truly a gift.
Okay. Disseminate that, dear. Do you teach yoga?
I do yoga. I don't teach it. It's a part of my life.
Okay. Well, begin to teach it.
Oh, that's funny you should say that. Okay. Okay.
Good.
That would be a treat. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be. But it's so necessary, so important. Share it on our Facebook page.
All right.
Good.
Yeah, I think, once again, I keep going back to young people. I think they're going to be so ready for the change. Of course, the older we get a little bit stuck. But younger people are going to be, they're already listening. I see it. You could say something and they'll turn and listen. And it takes me, I really admire them. They're ready. They want something different.
That's right. And they're very special souls coming in now, or have been for a while. But the further we go along, the more we get these incredible souls who do get it. And they are the leaders of tomorrow, as we say. But and we're just learning what they know is way there in the back of their heads or their hearts or whatever.
Yeah. So as much as we might have underestimated them, I think this is where they're going to shine.
Yes, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, dear.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Now, who else? We have time for one more.
Siri Gian is Ron Cheese again. Oh, sorry.
Oh, good. We have time for two more. Okay, so let's take Gunaratma first.
Okay, hi. So I've been finding in my life with school and my town, and I've been having people come in to my realm that you would consider kind of difficult, or maybe they're not well liked, or they have difficulty in relating to people. And what I feel is that I can sense right away kind of where they're coming from and their issue thing. And when I just send the heart breath to them, at first they're a little bit thrown off because they are kind of shocked that someone's sending them kindness instead of just reacting to their normal the energy that they're sending out. And it feels as though at least they get a glimmer of feeling that somebody might just be sending them good energy instead of, you know, always feeling like they have to defend themselves or stand up for something. Or
right.
So little things like that. And then I do some volunteering at the junior high, and so many of those kids, they just kind of come around, and they, you know, they don't exactly fit, but then I can feel them coming over to my energy. I work in the student store, and they just come over and they hang out a while, and I just send them the heart breath and a little bit of kindness, and you can see shifts gradually over time. So
that is so wonderful. That is just, go ahead.
Yeah.
Concrete evidence of what's going on.
Yeah, sometimes
really
it's gradual.
that.
You know, you don't want to overwhelm them, and it's not about me trying to befriend them or see if they like me. It's just I just extend it and then just see what changes within them. Like maybe they can, you know, hate themselves a little less if they think that they can get a good reaction from someone instead of the standard, I do this, they say that, I defend myself, and then I'm mad, and then, you know, that whole game.
Isn't that wonderful?
That's my experience, yeah. Thank you.
Good. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing that very practical experience, dear. Very real. Thank you. And Ranjit.
Yeah, I just wrote a quick little ditty for the grumpy dump.
Oh, you did? Let's hear it.
Don't be grumpy, frowning all the time. Come on, get dumpy, then smile and be kind. Grumpy dump, twirl all around. Grumpy dump, shake it to the ground. Take my hand, jump up and down, do the grumpy dump and turn it around. Grumpy dump, twirl all around. Grumpy dump, shake it to the ground. Twirl it, whirl it, work it to the ground. Syncopated rhythm, jump all around. Then again, grumpy dump, shake it to, twirl all around. Grumpy dump, shake it to the ground.
I love that.
Yay.
Can you record it and send it to me? I mean, with music?
Oh, okay. You want music too? Okay.
I want music too.
I'll have to think about that, how to do that. Okay.
Okay, maybe Hargo Ben can help.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. That was
fabulous.
Fun.
I love it. I'm really serious about getting this thing at least on the site. Thank you so much, dear. I love
You're
it.
welcome.
Okay, and thank you so much. Well, I was going to say Guru Ramdas, but there's also Guru Amar Das here. He was the third Sikh Guru. Oh, he's so kind. He's so kind. Okay, just feel that kindness. Just let it sink in. He says, that's yours. Turn to it. Be it. It's yours forever. And of course, Baba Siri Chand is hugging everyone. Everyone. Okay. Now, is Kehar here? I think Kehar has begun work. She has come to Española and to begin work with 3HO. Amazing.
Oh.
So she is going to be the events assistant. So she's going to be assisting Anand Singh, who's head of events. Cool, huh?
Mhm. Wonderful.
Okay, so sit straight, please. Palms together. Inhale. May the long time sun shine upon you, all love around you, and the pure Guide your way. Guide your way. Guide your way. Inhale. And bow to your infinity. Bow to the syncopated dance. Love who you are. Love where you are. Stay steady. And be Mama's child. God bless you all. Talk to you soon. Sat Nam.
Sat Nam.